What's up, guys? It's been a minute since I got to put an episode up here on all of these podcasting platforms, but if you haven't heard yet, we're over on Facebook Live. Head over to Facebook Live. We're trying to do as much on there as possible and monetize on there. And then we're going to swing back around to all these podcasting platforms, finish season 3, get some more guests on the show, line up season 4, and yeah, we're gonna have some good guests. So today we got the interview with Anna Schwabe, and she's a doctor. So hope you guys enjoy this. Talk soon. Tell me a little about yourself. Tell me a little about what you do.
Hey Ryan. Yeah, it was good to speak with you the other day. So I'm Dr. Anna Schwabe. Um, I got nicknamed Dr. Annabis about 3 years ago, which I think is pretty funny, and I just kind of ran with it. But I have a PhD in cannabis genetics. It's a pretty interesting and lengthy story, but basically I got interested. Well, I've always been interested in cannabis ever since, probably high school. Um, but I really got into cannabis and kind of thinking about cannabis research when I was working at the Denver Botanic Gardens back in let's see, this was 2012 to 2015, thinking about various questions that were coming up after the legalization for adult use in Colorado. And the number one thing that stuck out to me was people saying that if they go to different dispensaries and buy the same kind of flower, the same strain, they didn't have the same effects. And I thought that was really strange because, if it's got a name, like if it's a Granny Smith apple, it should be the same. We're relatively the same with a little bit of variation, because it's a plant, no matter where you get it. And so that's kind of where my interest started. And I brought it up to my mentor that I had for my master's degree, and the school, the University of Northern Colorado, we were able to kind of figure out a way for me to get some research done with high THC type cannabis, which is basically not a thing at universities here in the United States. Most of the cannabis research is limited to hemp research because THC type cannabis is still federally illegal, and so a lot of universities don't want to touch it. So I kind of was in this really unique position where I was able to get a PhD in cannabis genetics with high THC type cannabis from dispensaries, answering questions that really were consumer driven, consumer focused. So I was going into dispensaries and buying weed just like anybody would, and then conducting experiments, not partnering with a cultivator or partnering with a lab. Like, it was all just kind of like super secret, off the shelf testing kind of stuff to answer some of these really crazy questions. And it was awesome. And it took me 4 years. I could have done it quicker, but they wanted me to slow down, pump the brakes. But I think I got 5 publications out of that, which a lot of people would be familiar with. The big one is that, strains aren't always what they say they are. And then the other one is the THC inflation that everybody's talking about these days. That was another one that was very popular. And then the other one was that the cannabis used for research, the research grade marijuana from the University of Mississippi, is more closely related to hemp than it is to anything that any consumers, patients, or recreational have access to, which is really odd. But yeah, so that's who I am. That's what I've done, and what I'm doing now is looking for a job.
Yeah, we had spoke about that, and that's very unfortunate. And with you, and we're gonna hop back to that in a second here about the Blue Dream. I believe you were talking about, and how you compared it to a Granny Smith apple, and how you would assume, since they are all Blue Dream, that, there might be, they should all have the same taste. A Granny Smith apple that have like that sweet tart taste to it, right? A little bit sour
Yeah.
to it. So
Yeah,
it's a
there's
good
a there's
analogy.
like a there's like a level of expectation that a Granny Smith should be. It should be green. It should be round. It should be tart. Um, Depending on where they're grown, though, I mean, there are going to be differences, right? So a Tasmanian, if you know where Tasmania is, it's a state in Australia, the little bottom island of Australia. So they're really well known for their apples, actually. But a Granny Smith grown in Tasmania might be different from a Granny Smith grown in California, but they have various features that that make them a Granny Smith. Like you would never confuse a Granny Smith with a Golden Delicious apple, right? They're different. And it's the same with, like, lots of things like dogs. Like I have dachshunds. All three look different, but there is a set of traits that hold them together as and make them um identifiable as dachshunds, right? You would never look at a dachshund and be like, that's a Great Dane.
Right. You think a dachshund, you're like hot dog. It's a hot dog dog.
Yeah, and I had like one short hair red dachshund, one short haired black and dapple dachshund, and then I have a long haired double dapple dachshund. And they all look really different, but they all still are very identifiable as dachshunds. And so when I'm talking about Blue Dream, for example, like there should be something similar about Blue Dream no matter where you get it. And the consumers really don't have any information other than the name on the package and potentially the THC content to tell you that it's Blue Dream. And it's not only consumers, right? So if you're a cultivator and you order seeds of Blue Dream, which isn't a thing because Blue Dream was not ever stabilized, it should be a clone only. But let's say you order some clones, you have to go off the person who's supplying you with those clones, that they are giving you Blue Dream and that they had received Blue Dream to make cuts from. So like there's this whole thing all the way down the chain of command where there's literally no checks in what do I want to say? There's no way to check that you have the thing that you think you're getting. You just have to kind of trust it, trust the process.
Which
And
is kind of messed up in a certain sense because they're always talking about regulation and there's all these rules and like just the future is definitely coming together. It's just having these extra things like for example, you were talking about the stabilization of the of Blue Dream, and I'm thinking, and including myself, I would not I really wouldn't have known that it's Blue Dream, you mentioned it being not being stabilized. What exactly does that mean?
so to stabilize your genetic line, what you need to do is basically breed out all the variation. So it takes multiple generations of putting two, like, and it might be easier for people to think of two dogs. Okay, so you go to the pound, you pick up two dogs, and you're hoping to make a new breed. Those two dogs are mutts, and they have a combination of multiple different types of dogs in them. You breed them together, that first litter is going to have a whole lot of variation in it. So then you're going to take a couple of the puppies and breed them together and try to start breeding, choosing the traits that you want and getting rid of the traits that you don't. So you're going to pick the perfect, the two perfect, or you can even back cross to one of the parents. And you're going to start breeding and eliminating individuals that have traits that are undesirable and keeping and inbreeding for the traits that you are looking for. And we all, have been conditioned to know that inbreeding is a bad thing.
Right.
Right? When you inbreed, especially people and
Yeah.
dog stuff, you get some things that come along with that. Uh certain diseases and things like that. Um, but that's how we get stable lines is we inbreed until when you breed two dachshunds together, you get all baby dachshunds. You won't get an accidental Dalmatian out of a litter of dachshunds that have been bred from purebred dachshunds. So really what that stabilization is doing um is creating non-variable traits, right? Does that
Mm.
I hope that makes sense?
No, you're definitely not going to get a Dalmatian by breeding two
So, and
da,
that's how you make a cultivar, right? So cultivars, there's this whole ongoing debate about we shouldn't say the word strain, we should use cultivar, right? But a cultivar is something that has been bred and selected for and is stable for the most part. I mean, there's a couple of exceptions, like if it's propagated through clone only, it has to be novel, distinct, and uniform, uh, and stable. Like those are just the things that a cultivar has to be. So I kind of think about it like a lot of things on the market, including Blue Dream, they're not stable. Like if you put two different Blue Dream plants together, you're still going to have a lot of variation in that offspring. And that's why they say it's clone only, is because you're not going to get that set of traits that you were looking for if you breed Blue Dream from seed, right? So that's what clone only means. But there's quite, there's a few cannabis varieties out there that would be considered cultivars that have been around for years, that you know what you're going to get when you grow them from seed. But the problem with cannabis is that, again, it's federally illegal, so there's no way to register new cultivars really at this time. And so it just makes a lot more sense if you find something that you like. You put two things together, you get offspring, you like this. It's just easier to grow up a plant and then clone it, instead of going through all of that whole process of breeding out all of the undesirable traits, which takes a lot of time, a lot of resources, a lot of, like it's a long process. And it's just easier to cut off bits of the plant and start growing new plants, right?
sure, for sure.
Uh, yeah. So I think and it's pretty unique to cannabis because it has been illegal for so long that, you know, creating cultivars and breeding out undesirable traits just isn't really worth it for most people. It's just like,
Yeah.
oh, let's find something we like and then we'll just clone it. So it's kind of, and then people will, breed it with something else, or they'll create feminized seeds, which is fine. You can do that and create a pretty good stable seeds, and they'll be female, which is great. But it's like this mishmash patchwork of everything out there. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it is. It's definitely a very thorough, long process. I'm not a breeder, but I've done some research. You've done a lot of research.
Yeah.
A lot of you. I don't think. How long have you been doing this for? Because this is very. People need to know this for perspective. How long have you been doing this?
Well, my interest in cannabis started in about 1993, um, where I tried to grow some cannabis, but my parents caught me and I got in trouble. But I started seriously researching cannabis in 2015. So so 9 years.
Right.
And that's
That's a minute.
that's like day in, day out. That's my job, is to sit, through grad school, was doing experiments on cannabis, reading every book, every paper, everything that I possibly get my hands on to learn everything that I possibly could. And that's just in one like facet of cannabis. I don't know much about like extractions and things like that. Like there's a whole there's so many arms in the cannabis industry, and I just am in one little bubble of it. But yeah, 9 years of me, working 40 plus hours on just cannabis.
And I'm telling you, there are, I would say, 4 out of 5 people, 3 out of 5 people ish right now would be like, wow, I really want her job. I would really have liked to do that. You know, or you do
Job that I don't have.
right, right. Because we're about to jump into that next year. Because you were doing some work where we were not we where you were planting hemp in like forested areas. So give me a little background on that.
Yeah, so well, straight out of grad school, I actually worked for a company called Mile High Labs in Colorado, and I was doing some research stuff with them. My title was research coordinator, and we were trying to get some research set up to do like preclinical stuff on various minor cannabinoids, which there's not a lot of research out there. People always ask me, what does CBG do? What does CBN do? And I'm like, well, we don't know very much. But that job that was only a short-lived position because the company kind of imploded. But then I was picked up by a company in New Jersey, a startup company called Shore Organics / 420 Organics. And they moved me out to New Jersey, and they have a hemp farm where they use aquaponic methods to grow CBD type hemp that will eventually go for extraction. But yeah, it's out in the forest in New Jersey, and we were we had fish that poop, and then that poop would get processed through various biological filters, shrimp and microbes and things like that. And then when we'd use that nitrate rich water to feed the plants, and it's all organic. We didn't add anything else, like no other amendments to the soil. It was a living soil situation as well. So yeah, so that's what we were doing. Pretty cool stuff. I was with that company for 3.5 years up until just about 3 weeks ago. They had to let me go because they had run out of money, which is, one of the things that comes with working for a startup in cannabis, probably in any industry, really. Startups are sometimes they don't work out. So hopefully this company will keep going. I really like what they're doing, and they're planning to expand into the THC market as well. They've got the licenses. It's just been a really slow, long process here in New Jersey. The regulators are just dicking around, and you got to deal with townships and whatnot. But I hope that they keep going, and I hope that they do well. They haven't totally like thrown in the towel yet. So
Find some funding, find some investors. If this sounds like something you would like to be part of, I'm gonna include Anna's information here in the website description. I mean, the episode description. So there'll be a link to her website where you'll be able to learn a little bit more about her and contact her if you have any questions. Maybe she can point you in the right direction. This is something that both Anna and I love to do, is talk cannabis, be around cannabis. And a lot of the things going forward matter about what people like Anna are doing, trying to do, are going to do. So we are coming to a day where there's a lot of things changing, a lot of laws that are changing. There's been the Farm Bill, which has garnered a lot of attention. So I kind of wanted to get your opinion on that. Proposals looking like that it's going to go disapproving or not disapproving, but kind of making like HHC, which is a naturally occurring cannabinoid in the plant in some variations. THCO, yeah, there's the synthetics.
HHC does not occur in the plant at all. It's the plant. No.
No,
It's nope.
no. What I had read is it said that in some African strains that HHC
no.
pops up as a semi occurring or something of that nature.
I would love to see that. I have never heard that, and I've never seen that. And I talk to a lot of people who do a lot of testing. There are some African strains that have THCV, but HHC is not a naturally occurring cannabinoid. And it has to be done in a lab. Just the nature of the molecule doesn't occur in nature.
Yeah, I had read in a couple places that HHC was uh, found in very, like, we're talking semi-microscopic amounts in African strains. It was something I had seen, but that's probably subjective to the type of testing that's been going on or something. I don't know. I know that it's a hydrogenated version, of THC. How that could happen in a plant, it was fascinating to me. But like CBN, CBD, CBG, uh, CBDC or CBC or what and whatnot, kind of leaves a lot of questions in the air, of what's going to happen.
So, yeah, so let's talk. So the plant technically doesn't even make delta 9 THC or CBD or CBG or CBC. The plant makes the acidic versions of those, right? So we have CBGA, which is cannabigerolic acid. I'll say that. I'll say that.
Customers all day.
Uh, so technically, the plant makes the acidic compounds. So we have CBGA is the first compound that's made in the cascade of molecules, and so that's cannabigerolic acid, and then the synthases, the enzymes that convert that to THCA, CBDA, and CBCA are in the plant. So that's what the plant makes, is those acidic molecules. The plant doesn't actually make delta 9 THC or CBD or CBC. Those acidic molecules have to be decarboxylated in order for those to occur. The plant would not be in any sort of conditions where any of those molecules would be decarboxylated in any respectable levels, right? So any plant that you grow, if it's got even the THC dominant plants, there's going to be very low levels of delta 9 THC because the plant doesn't make that. It takes an outside source, heat or acid or UV or something for that decarboxylation of that acidic molecule to happen. So that being said, with the Farm Bill, right? What they're trying to do is address these intoxicating hemp-derived cannabinoids. So some of them are naturally occurring. They naturally, can decarboxylate, or all you have to add is heat and they will naturally carboxylate, or they will degrade, like delta 8 and CBN are natural degradants of delta 9. So those might show up in very small quantities. If the plant has been, not stored well or in a jar on your windowsill for a couple months, like then you're going to start seeing those levels go up. But the plant doesn't make those, but they are naturally occurring. The ones that are not, things like HHC, THCO, delta 10, I can't even think of, there's like a whole bunch of them, right? THCP is naturally occurring, but again, not in any kind of respectable amounts, very, micro quantities, such that you wouldn't be able to grow enough hemp or, to get any kind of decent quantity of THCP to sell or to put into, whatever. So that is also made in a lab. And what they do is they take CBD, so they take the CBDA, make it into CBD, extract it, do the extracts, make an isolate, and then they take the isolate and then they make it into other things. So they're taking the problem. There's a couple of different problems. CBD is an approved drug by the FDA for Epidiolex.
Right.
So what they're doing really is taking an approved drug ingredient and making other things that are not approved. They're not regulated. They're not anything. And when they do this, when a lot of people do this, not only are the compounds that they're trying to make are made, but there's a lot of byproducts that are also made. We don't even have names for them. We don't know what they are. They show up on the mass spec chromatogram, and you can see all these peaks, but we don't know what they are. they're not even named yet. They're not described. We have no idea what they are, right? We don't know if they're safe, or anything like that. And then also when people do these uh chemical reactions, a lot of delta 9 THC can be made. So these products can also have more delta 9 THC than they're supposed to in order to be, be hemp. And there are some companies that are doing it right, but there's a whole lot of people that are just, they're just making it to make money. And the thing about the Farm Bill, so the Farm Bill in 2018 clarified some language. There was the interim rules and then the final rules, which came out and were in effect in 2021. They clarified that hemp is anything below 0.3% total THC, not just delta 9, but total THC. That, and the Farm Bill only regulates up until that pre-harvest compliance test. Then, depending on which state you're in, you've got a 15 to 30-day window to which you have to harvest. So 30 days is the maximum amount of time that you have before from that test that is compliant to harvest that plant. And there's no THC dominant plant in the world that is going to go from less than 0.3% total THC to 20+% THC in 30 days. It just won't happen. Like, you won't be able to pass that compliance test anyway. So the issue is that now there's a bunch of stuff that's called THCA hemp, right? Because it's got very little delta 9 THC and a lot of THCA. But that's any cannabis plant that is THC dominant. They're all going to be like that because that's what the plant is until you heat it up and do things with it. And those products, those THCA hemp is not regulated. It's not tested for pesticides, because the only test that you have to do when you're growing hemp is that compliance test. They don't care because hemp was never meant to be a consumable product. So you don't have to do microbials. You don't have to do terpenes. You don't have to do heavy metals. You don't have to do mycotoxins. You don't have to do any of those tests that you have to do if you're in the regulated marijuana market, right? So where is all this THCA hemp coming from? Because it's not coming from the hemp cultivators.
Right.
So it's either coming from illicit grows, or there's another theory out there that it's coming from failed marijuana cultivations. Like, they failed pesticides or mycotoxins or molds, and instead of destroying it, they're like, well, we'll just slap a label on it and call it THCA hemp because it's still below 0.3% delta 9, which is the CSA, the Controlled Substances Act, still says 0.3% delta 9 THC. So technically it falls under hemp for the Controlled Substances Act, which is what the DEA enforces. If you read the CSA further down, from where it gives the definition of hemp, it does say hemp according to the USDA definition, and then you go to the USDA final rules, which say total THC. So I don't know. Like, there's a lot of there's gray area, and in terms of making all of these compounds from CBD, the definition does say any part of the plant growing or not with a less than delta 9 concentration of 0.3 plus all of its isomers, salts, blah 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 blah, derivatives, and technically those are all derivatives. So lawyers are fighting about it, and there's people making money off of this, and it could all be solved if we just legalize cannabis, because why would we have all these weirdo things for people to enjoy if it was, I mean, I think people would choose the plant over these weirdo Frankenstein chemically lab made things. But a lot of states still don't have access to that, right? So But nonetheless, we have this, and you know, back in 2018, 2019, the market was flooded. Everybody thought, oh, well, we can grow hemp. Growing hemp's going to be amazing. Let's grow lots of hemp. Lots of farmers grew hemp. The market was flooded with CBD, and the price tanked. And then a lot of people were left holding a shit ton of CBD isolate, and they couldn't sell it. So I think it's really innovative that people were able to, you know, figure out a way to do what they needed to do with the CBD they had, convert it into other things that people could use. People really like it. I don't fault anybody for doing that. But you know, here we are.
Right. For
And
sure.
I don't think that the farm bill, so the farm bill it's supposed to be revisited every 4 to 5 years. And so 2018 was the last revision. The final rules went into effect in 2021, but 2018, we're well overdue for a revisit of the farm bill. And the farm bill is huge. It doesn't just cover hemp, it covers, you know, everything.
Mhm.
Um, it's a very large piece of legislation. That being said, you know, was it Mary Miller proposal that you ban everything, blah blah blah, people are freaking out. We have to remember that the farm bill really only applies to cultivators. It's a USDA thing. If you're manufacturing products post harvest, the farm bill doesn't really apply to you. So putting that stuff in the farm bill doesn't, it's not going to affect cultivators at all. They're still beholden to the less than 0.3% total THC they have since 2021. So everybody who's freaking out about it is on the other side of the cultivation, on the other side of harvest. So I don't know what's going to happen with that, but
Mhm.
people seem to forget that.
Yeah, there's a lot of you had alluded to with like the THCA, for example. Um, I myself buying product when it had first started getting because we do hemp extracts, we do like CBD, CBG, and when I say hemp extracts, I mean by definition of the current word hemp, which is point 0.3 because it's basically just a made up word for cannabis in relation to our laws. But so we were doing a lot of those products when it first started to get out, and initially we had found that some of the THCA did have some mold on it, but we weren't we had just thought of that as like a one time something like really messed up happened, like specifically isolated incident to us. It wasn't. It was something that had happened to multiple companies. It was something that so you are right. That's not something to be taken lightly or to mess around with. That would be really messed up if that's what was going on. That's very
Yeah.
sad.
And, you know, it's awesome that, you know, you can get THCA flower in states where cannabis is not legal. You know, I have a friend who lives in Texas, for example, and she's like, I can't get it anyway. She's like, I can't, where am I? And I don't want to bring it across state lines. Like, I don't know where to, I need cannabis and I don't know where to get it. And I'm like, babe, THCA hemp is what you're looking for. That's just weed. It's just weed. It's just weed. Go buy that. And she's like, you know, she doesn't know a lot about cannabis. She just knows that she needs it all day, every day to function. She's got pretty severe ADHD, among other things. But yeah, she was like, dude, this is totally just weed. I'm like, I know, it's totally just weed.
It
But
totally just it totally is just
it
weird.
totally is just weed. You know, but buyer beware, right? So if you're using it for medicine or if you are immunocompromised or whatever the case, you do need to be careful of these products because they are unregulated. We don't know where they came from. They haven't been through the rigorous testing requirements that the adult use and medical use industries are beholden to. Um, maybe there are some companies that are doing full panel tests, but they don't have to. And also, there are all kinds of COAs that are just fudged or, made up or not for that product, because these are, again, the track and trace system isn't there anymore. Not that track and trace, if the track and trace system actually worked, we wouldn't, have all of this going on. But, and, I mean, we don't need more regulations. We just need the regulations to be enforced. It seems like the regulators, they got one job, and that's to regulate, and nothing, it seems, is being regulated. We've got THC inflation, we've got off-the-shelf testing, flour that's failing mold and yeast and pesticides and like, what are the regulators doing? Why did they spend all this time coming up with all these rules if they're not actually going to enforce them and make sure that people are putting out safe products? I don't know. I don't get it. Maybe they need to hire me.
Yes, yes, that's exactly what they need to do. Consistency would be nice. Consistency is the key. It would be, we just all need to really like just know what we're working with at this point and move forward from that. And it would be nice to just kind of bypass all that and let's just legalize it. And it would make things a hell of a lot easier, especially for both of us. It would make things a lot easier for both of us. But I don't want us to get cut off from our meeting today, our chat today. I like your earrings, by the way. I didn't notice what they were at first.
Oh yeah, these are
They're fantastic.
yeah, these are my little black dress of my cannabis earrings.
Mhm.
They're from a company called High on Plants, which is Alice Moon. She's pretty well known in the cannabis community, but she just started this company, I don't know, like a year ago. I have every single color they've put out. And they did a tie-dye one for Pride Month, and then I suggested they do a leopard print one, and they did, and they are freaking awesome. So
That's
if you want,
great.
and they're leather, which is really cool because a lot of the metal ones are super pokey, and not super comfortable, especially if you end up, like take a nap and then you end up with like your holes in your face. But they're leather, so they're really soft, and I love them. I get a lot of compliments. Um, Highly recommend looking them up. Maybe not for you, but if you know any females in your life that like cannabis jewelry, High on Plants is the name of the company. Thank you.
High on plants. Well, that I will. People will definitely hear that on the podcast. So check that website
Good.
out. I'm gonna put your website here in the description, and we're gonna have to schedule another talk soon.
Good.
I enjoy talking with you. I definitely learn things when I talk with you. It helps me out, and
Yeah,
yeah,
we could do a part two. We could even do a whole series.
we
Like
should. We should. It
structured.
would probably do really well, actually.
Well, I'd be happy to. I love talking about weed. It's my favorite thing to do.
Mhm.
And I have a lot to say in case you didn't notice. So
All right. I appreciate everybody for listening today. This was a pre recorded episode. Check in the next 48 hours. I'll have another podcast episode available on Facebook Live. So go to Only the Best Herbs podcast community and store. Join our community. You'll see the lives posted there. You can follow me. You'll definitely see the lives posted there. And yeah, I appreciate everybody. Talk soon.